Hello there, this is Stormdog, and this month I've undertaken a big project, at least for me. This month I'm trying to put out a video every week fitting the theme of the month. This is the spooky, spoopy month, and we're going to revisit movies I grew up on that fit that Halloween time. This week we're starting out with one that I loved as a kid, but is very much a product of its time. Earth vs. the Spider is a 1958 creature feature borderline schlock film with, as you may have guessed, a giant spider. Not quite Earth Defense Force levels, but for a 1950s small town, big enough. In many areas it is simply called The Spider, but this is the title I grew up with, Earth vs. the Spider. It is often called a ripoff of Tarantula. Really, this was a prominent trend at the time. With the technology and camera techniques of the time, these type of films take advantage of splice footage, rear projection, and models when needed. The spider throughout much of the movie is actually just a spider, not any kind of model or mock-up. There are some scenes with appendages where they put the work in. I have no idea if people back then were genuinely scared by this type of fare, but it seemed real enough to me as a kid, although I did not develop a phobia of spiders. Either way, it is the type of film where reactions are quite overblown, with much screaming by every female character. The kind of thing that looked good in trailers and previews back then. Let's take a look at the story. A man is driving home late night with a present for his daughter, and he runs into what I believe is a single strand of web, or possibly the spider just slapped the car right through the windshield. I did go back and check, it is a strand of web, and they deal with this later on, actually, so my bad. We cut to a young high school couple the next day, and she's worried that her dad hasn't come home. We pick up that this is not uncommon behavior from him, and he has a tendency to be negligent. She convinces her boyfriend to take her to check the roads nearby, worried that something has happened. They find his truck along the road and search the caves nearby for the father. Here, they meet the titular beast. They escape and tell their high school science teacher about it. He believes them and convinces the sheriff to take some men to check out the cave. And the group, teens, teacher, and police, find the spider and learn that bullets don't kill it. They get industrial-grade DDT and spray it to death. Deciding this is a great scientific find, they take it down to the high school gym to store it until the authorities can come get it. I don't know how they manage this feat, but what comes next is even more dumb. Some high school students want to practice for the big dance and convince the janitor to let them into the gym. As they dance and the band rocks, the spider awakes. The spider is soon smashing through walls and devastating the town. Many try to evacuate and victims are left everywhere in the streets. This is actually one of the more effective parts of the movie. The phone lines have been cut and 5G towers haven't been invented yet. One deputy is sent to get help, but is killed by the spider. The spider chases the original teen couple back to the cave. Not realizing this, the sheriff and teacher blow up the entrance, sealing the monster in with its victims. It becomes a race against the clock to tunnel back into the cave, save the teens, and find some way to kill the spider once and for all. The science teacher is definitely the best character in the movie, with his wise reaction to the situation, whether it's actually listening to the teen's story and not just writing them off as pranksters, or finding yet another way to kill the spider. The sheriff reacts as most adults would after hearing a story of a giant spider, and doesn't believe it until he sees it. Afterwards, he becomes a pretty effective force in protecting his town. The teen couple, however, is halfway dumb at least, and ends up searching back through the cave as the spider is rampaging through town to find a gift box her dead dad had wanted to give her. Granted, they didn't realize that their even more dumb friends had awoken the spider with their garage band antics. The movie is definitely limited by technology and budget. They did the best they could, and for the most part, it works. You will, however, be able to notice they've just blown up the footage of your average-sized tarantula. If it turns out they didn't actually use a tarantula, please forgive me. Beyond that, many of the actors playing teen students in the movies are obviously into their 30s. Casting kind of botched that detail. Some of the actors I had seen in other bit parts, but not any major stars of that day. The science professor was played by Ed Kemmer, and he did a lot of television with prominent roles in The Clear Horizon and Space Patrol. The boy in the teen relationship was played by Eugene Pearson, and isn't known for much of anything, like much of the cast, outside of playing various members of the Kettle family in a few of the Ma and Pa Kettle movies. There's a few aspects I want to bring up. There are a good amount of scenes in the spider's caves that really bug me. And no, that was not intended to be a pun. It's actually a mistake they make often within the movie, calling the spider an insect. Well, for those of you that know. My guess is, though, that they shot these scenes day from night and just had the actors pretend it was dark in there. There are scenes when they first go in looking for the spider where the actors are nonchalant as they are basically standing on a pile of human skeletons. My only guess is the viewer is supposed to assume it's too dark to see in there, but it's well lit enough for the viewer to see everything. Much of the town it takes place in is actually the Universal backlot where many movies were filmed. Chief among this is the Courthouse Square's backlot of Universal, where Marty McFly catches the lightning bolt. The courthouse itself, with this movie also having a scene on its steps, showed up in Leave It to Beaver, The Twilight Zone, To Kill a Mockingbird, Inherit the Wind, Bye Bye Birdie, and many, many others. Another alley that the spider terrorizes through is also where parts of To Kill a Mockingbird were filmed. As far as the title, The Spider, or Earth vs. the Spider, they started with just The Spider but changed it during production. Around this time, The Fly became a big hit for rival 20th Century Fox, and so they changed it back to just The Spider to try to trick audiences into believing there was some kind of connection. The director, Burt I. Gordon, was well known for exactly this type of movie. He had two others the same year in the same vein, War of the Colossal Beast and Attack of the Puppet People. Those two titles actually show up in this movie on a theater marquee. I've seen his film The Magic Sword from 1962, but it's not something I ever think about. He mostly did movies like The Spider up through the early 60s, did two cult classics during the 70s with Food of the Gods and Empire of the Ants. I know at least one of those two has been covered by Good Bad Flicks, which I highly recommend. In the 80s, he tried his hand at the popular teen sex comedy craze, but it doesn't appear it created anything memorable. He stopped doing films in 1989, but actually came back to direct for a movie in 2015, Secrets of a Psychopath. I'm not sure anything in his filmography rates above a 6 on IMDb. This movie, The Spider, only gets a 4.2. Personally, I'd give it more like a 5. You can't often expect much better with these old giant monster movies, whatever it may be, arachnid, insect, monkey, or lizard. The movie at time of writing was free on Tubi with a good copy. It's a fun, goofy movie that nowadays is pretty safe for younger audiences and may trigger your nostalgia of old AMC Monster Fest movies. I do want to mention me and some other creators recently started a t-shirt design company. I'll leave a link to the store in the description. Be warned, these aren't for everyone. We only have two moods, super goofy humor or actual legends from around the world with our Built Different line. Otherwise, you can help the channel by subscribing or leaving a like. I'm always very happy to reply to your comments. And until next time, this has been Stormdog.
Now guys, start with the opening number. And don't go to sleep on it. Play with everything you've got. Loud enough to wake the dead, huh? Play it good and loud.